We'll start with Section 1, call to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, roll call.
Ms. Witt? Here. Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Ms. Wood? Here. Mr. Lotus?
Here.
Mr. Madler?
Here.
Ms. Fisher? Here. All present?
Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone in the room that we have the open meetings law posted as the entrance to the room. Moving on to Section 2, communication, we have the Student Council report for PLHS. So please welcome Dianar Lopez-Torres and Nova Degby. Welcome. I think your last one, too, probably?
Yes,
yeah? All right.
One of the year.
Kind of bittersweet, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so on to our last report. So over spring break and into our fourth quarter, we have sprung, see what I did there, into action. Here's a quick recap. For sports, in soccer, the girls had a big win last week versus the Titans. It was 1-0 with a late goal by Emma Wazalewski.
Yes.
There we go. We competed well and lost 0-2 to Marion, and then took a 4-hour trip to North Platte and beat Jason Ryan's Bulldogs 5-0. Boys got a big win out of Kearney Saturday, and they won in a shootout. And the boys had a light week, only playing one match versus Omaha South, and we competed very well, eventually losing to a good South team. In track, we competed indoors at the College of St. Mary. Our boys finished second, and our girls won the meet. And for our event winners for the boys, we have Travis Hines for the triple jump, DeMarcus McCarty for the long jump, and Jesse Malone for the high jump, or hurdles, excuse me. And for the girls, Sierra Williams won the 400, Morgan Glazier won the high jump, and we won the 4x400 relay with Williams, Glazier, Chaddock, and Campbell, and the 4x800 relay with both Karnicks, Finneran, and Anderson. And on to baseball, construction continues to push us back to UNO, and we're going to stop our construction work in order to move back to Frick in this month. Our new stands and concrete work will wait until after the summer season is over. Last week, we won both of our scheduled games. And Brett Holscher faced 10 and struck out 8 versus Kearney. And we then beat North Friday 2-1, but it was too cold for Saturday's game versus Norfolk. Coach Jim Thomas won 2 state titles and coached over 3,000 games for the Monarchs, and our tournament this weekend was named after him in his honor. This is Coach Thomas turning in the lineup card for the opening game, and we thank Coach McCabe for putting this together. We won the tournament and beat Bellevue West 5-4, and we head into the Metro tournament as the #1 seed and will play at Frick Thursday at 5. For golf, we had our Superintendent's Cup versus the Titans on Monday, and we thank Coach Kendall for his work hosting this competitive field. And finally, for sports, in tennis, we won a triangular with Pius and Pap South on Tuesday. We then went on to a very strong tournament with Coach and finished 7th, and Julia Mosier was edged out of the semifinals and placed 4th.
Now for our student life, we had the ACT for juniors today and pre-ACT for sophomores. And kindly, Student Council gave each junior a snack and 2 pencils yesterday. For prom, it is coming up on the 20th. The junior class board picked a theme, elected candidates for court, and we are selling tickets. Junior committee has been working hard and selected the theme called Once Upon a Time. Again, with Student Council, we were able to read to elementary students along with Papio Proud, PL Club, and NHS to all Northside feeder schools. And it was a fun day, and the students enjoyed it. Student council members will be attending the greater than 1 district that will be including 15 students, and it's an inclusion summit in Lincoln tomorrow. For Hope Squad, Hope Week has had spirit days and videos and announcements, all bringing suicide awareness to light, as well as creatively handing out pins for students with a kind note attached. There was great work, and shout out to Molly Grasso and her crew. She has a knack for her selection of programs and casting for the Addams Family show they had. And at PLHS, put on by the drama department, is Saturday, April 13th for the Spring Craft Fair. And Backer Night, it is our largest fundraiser of the year that supports all Monarch athletic programs. It was an evening filled with dinner, drinks, silent auction items, raffles, and a lot of fun. Thanks to those of you who contributed to the Backer Night Saturday. It was a great night, and we appreciate you for your generosity. Cheer, dance, and color guard had recent tryouts for next year, and Papio Proud had great success on March 7th during their multicultural fair. It was a beautiful show, an overall great success. And then lastly, heading to graduation. Honors Night will be held May 6th to congratulate all seniors and their hard work, and graduation is coming soon, and seniors will be walking on May 12th. So that is what we have.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. May I ask either one of you seniors?
I am a senior.
You're a senior?
I'm
Not
a junior.
Okay, well, you got 1 year left. But thanks for coming this year. I mean, thank both of you for coming, but best of luck next year with whatever you are venturing off to. Both of you have done a great job up here, and yeah, look forward to seeing you at probably honors night and then graduation as well.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good night.
You as
Too.
well.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to item B, public comment for items not on the agenda. We have 2 of those this evening. I'll remind each speaker that they get up to 3 minutes total. Oh. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so each speaker gets up to 3 minutes. When I call your name, please come to the podium, state your name and address or city. Ms. Branco will have the timer first beep at 2 minutes, 15 seconds, and the second beep when you're done at 3 minutes. We will start tonight with Mr. Mike Erdman.
Thank you. Mike Erdman, 926 South Madison Street, Papillion, Nebraska. I'm here again tonight to continue my concerns about upcoming election and candidates that are trying to fool you, not by what they tell you, but by what they're not telling you. Many will use terms like accountability and transparency, so let's talk about that. Recently, a candidate canvassed my neighborhood. I met with a few of my neighbors after their visit, and this candidate never mentioned the following. They only mentioned the fluff in their campaign handout. No mention of bringing a concealed firearm to a school board meeting on a school property and that they evaded police questions when confronted about the firearm. No mention they were cited for a felony and that with a good attorney they were able to plead down that felony to a misdemeanor, giving them the ability now to run for a school board position. No mention that they were even banned from attending school board meetings for a period of time after that conviction. Funny thing about conservative arguments on gun crime is they always say, we have enough gun laws, we just need to enforce them. I guess this is just another case of tough on crime conservatives, where the old adage is, those laws apply to thee, but not to me. Then there's the Facebook page, Sarpy Politics, which this candidate appears to be an admin. All kinds of negativity and half-truths written about our teachers and our school district there. And where this admin posted, and I quote, I disagree with the existence of the entire public school system and Department of Education. Think about that. This poster even equated the DARE program, which teaches kids about the dangers of drug use, to grooming. I wonder if this candidate will confirm or deny those comments are theirs. So we appear to have a candidate that deplores the public school system but wants to be on its school board. Is this just an attempt to dismantle our thriving and healthy school district? Pay attention, everyone. Needless to say, my neighbors were shocked to hear this information. Some said they would have asked him to leave if they had known this, and certainly won't be voting for them. Where's the transparency and accountability of this candidate demands of others? Who is this candidate, you wonder? If you don't already know, just simply Google concealed firearms Papillion School Board meeting and you'll know. Do your research if you plan to vote. Be an informed voter. So I have 2 questions for the voting public. First, what's a bigger threat to our community and our students? Words in a few books or a candidate that would create a life and death situation by bringing firearms onto school property that opposes those books? Second, what is more important to our community and its students? Candidates that want to create solutions and solve real issues, or candidates that appear to despise our school district and want to create havoc to further a political agenda? Like I've said before, there are those using our students, your kids, as pawns to further their political agenda and careers. Remember, the last board election gave us one of those radical candidates. You know the one on a mission that resigned in disgrace and embarrassed our district. We don't need any more of that nonsense. So let me close with this, a popular phrase that conservatives like to use, and that phrase is simply this: elections have consequences. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Erdman. Next up, for public comment for items not on the agenda, Mr. Michael Kuchenmeister.
Michael Kuchenmeister, La Vista. Good evening. I'm here tonight on behalf of PLV Ed Matters, a political organization that was officially launched a little over a week ago by PLCS parents from across the political spectrum who found unity in support of our schools and staff. And I'd like to introduce ourselves and why this organization was started. Our organization was founded with a purpose: a shared passion for public education and a deep appreciation for those who help shape our children's lives. As parents within the PLCS community, we've witnessed countless remarkable moments facilitated by our dedicated teachers and staff. Unfortunately, we've also observed unwarranted negativity and baseless attacks directed at our educators and school board members. We firmly believe that those who love and support PLCS far outweigh the dissenting voices. With this conviction, we founded PLV Ed Matters, a united, nonpartisan effort to ensure that PLCS remains exceptional for our children, your children, and our community. We love our schools here in Papillion and La Vista. We love our teachers, and we stand firmly behind those who help make this district as amazing as it is. We're here to not only support Board of Education candidates who share our love for our district and community, but to defend our educators and schools from baseless attacks by those who would rather tear it all down. Our teachers deserve better than that, and so do our children. Please check out our website at plvedmatters.org, where you can find more information on what we're about, what we stand for, what we hope to accomplish, and finally, how you can support us. Again, that's plvedmatters.org, all one word, plvedmatters.org. We have some information on our website about the PLCS candidates we support already, but we'll have more information about the other candidates soon. In the meantime, you'll also be able to find our links to our social media accounts there so you can keep up with what we're up to. Please join us as we seek out candidates who wish to build a stronger, more equitable education system, one that welcomes all students, empowers our teachers, and enriches our entire community. Together, we can build a more promising future for both our children and our community. Thank you.
Kuchenmeister. Moving on to item C, Superintendent's report. Dr. Rickler.
Thank you very much, Mr. Madler, members of the board. For those our community that are with us this evening, joining us live, thank you for being here. For those that are watching online via YouTube, thank you for engaging with your community and your Board of Education virtually. It matters. We appreciate your support. We did something a little bit different with the agenda this week. We decided to merge some of our recognitions along with my traditional superintendent's report. I'll get to my superintendent's report in just a moment. But we have a special group of ladies and gentlemen that are with us this evening. Start there first with our recognitions. And for those of you that watch our board meetings or have attended in the past, you know that at least once a month we try to do something highlighting either our staff or our students that have distinguished themselves in some type of an outstanding manner. And we have a number of students that have certainly done that. So we have some DECA state champions. We back? All right, very good. We have some state champions in our midst. And DECA, if you're not familiar with it, it's a student leadership group. It's traditionally focused on business skills and entrepreneurship in particular, and this district has long boasted really strong DECA teams at both Papillion La Vista High School and Papillion La Vista South, and we have students represented from both this evening. So because we do have, I think we have students from both schools here tonight, we'll do Monarch first. We have one recognition from Monarch, and then we've got a couple from South, so we'll do Monarch first, bring them up, take a picture, and then we'll bring our South students up as well. So moms, dads, whomever is here, perhaps supporting your pride and joy, we'll give you an opportunity to come up and take a picture if you so wish. So a little bit about these individuals. These students placed first in their category. We had top 3 finishers in each category, which are now invited to the national competition, which is held in Anaheim, California. Papillion La Vista High School had 4 students finish in the top 3. Those were all individuals, by the way. Papillion La Vista South had 15 students finish in the top 3, including 3 individuals and 6 teams of 2. Ladies and gentlemen, this is outstanding performance from our students in skills that we know that will equip them for that next phase in their life, whatever that may be, military, workforce, 2-year, 4-year schools. First up, from Papillion La Vista High School, I don't know if, did I see Priscilla come in? So Priscilla Peterson is the advisor from Papillion La Vista High School, and the student we are honoring tonight is Mr. Vincent Timberlake, who is a senior at Monarch. Vincent, come on down and be recognized by your Board of Education. Well done, Vincent. Outstanding. Our business office is always looking for good people, Vincent, so keep us in mind when it's time for that next step. Your school district is very proud of you, Vincent. Thank you for being here this evening. From Papillion La Vista South, I didn't see Allie here. Was Allie here? Allie's right in front. Thank you for being here, Coach Gillen. We had 3 individuals from Coach Gillen's team. We had Zeta Leitner, who is a senior, and on the team award, so this was kind of an aggregate award that included a variety of individuals, we have Aga Bowl, who's a senior, and Emily Cortez, who's a senior. Also, we had Jacob Hippie, who's junior, and Logan Dakey, who's also a junior. I don't know which were able to make it. Please come on down and be recognized by your Board of Education. And ladies, likewise, what categories did you win?
I was in Project Management Community Awareness.
Project Management Community Awareness?
Sports and Entertainment Marketing.
Sports and Entertainment Marketing. Outstanding. Your school district is proud of you, and likewise. We love to hire our grads, ladies, so don't forget about us after you've forged your way in the world. Those are skills we can use, Ms. Witt. So thank you, parents, coaches, and most of all our DECA competitors. We are so very proud of you representing both Monarch and Titan in such a positive way. I'll conclude my recognitions and on to my superintendent's reports. These next few weeks are incredibly busy. Before we get into that, though, I did want to make the community aware we did have a correction to the travel report. my name appeared, and you'll see it in this month's travel summary. We incorrectly listed the sponsor of an upcoming conference. It was listed as the National School Boards Association. It's a federal advocacy conference in Washington, D.C. at the end of this month, April 28th through May 1. The sponsoring conference is the Nebraska Association of School Boards, not national, and that was incorrect. So the dates are correct, the person is correct, the conference is correct. We had the wrong sponsor. So my apologies for getting that wrong. It is corrected in this month's travel agenda. Also, wanted to thank the community, wanted to thank the board for moving our board meeting from last night to tonight. That's highly irregular. We rarely do that. I could probably count on one hand how many times we've done that in the last 10 years. A number of our board members and myself were fortunate enough to travel to the school boards conference. I think you're going to probably hear more about that from our board members in just a little bit. Great opportunity to work with our board, to meet other board members, other superintendents from across the state. We had some great keynotes, some great breakout groups. I was personally able to attend a number of breakouts on issues regarding general communication strategies, federal updates, mental health, employee recognition, and the very last breakout session I attended before we left was on artificial intelligence and how that is impacting our students, our instruction, and how we deal with technology moving forward. Some really fascinating stuff. So again, thank you for being flexible with us, community, and with board, and hopefully moving the meeting from a Monday to a Tuesday didn't put anyone out. That's not something we will typically do. Also wanted to let the board know that we're wrapping up our advisory meetings for the year. As the community and the board is well aware, there's a number of advisory groups that we meet with 3-4 times a year. In case of our students, we meet with monthly. But we met with our student advisory for the second to last time, and we had a really good conversation with Dr. Variga Real about the use of social media. And we also had a good conversation with Shireen Siri about our tech audit. So basically, we were asking our students what works, what doesn't, what can we improve on everything from devices to internet connectivity, the Google Suite. It was a great conversation to hear directly from our students as frontline users what we're doing well as the things we want to improve upon. We carried that over then to our classified and certified advisories, which also met last week. A teacher advisory, and the classified advisory includes drivers, it includes paraeducators, it includes clerical support staff, really good group, and we had that same conversation with both groups about technology, what's working, what's not, so that will inform our thinking as we move forward with future technology purchases. And finally, we have our last business advisory this coming Friday. The business advisory consists of between 25 and 30 business leaders and elected officials. I know one of the things that they'll be very keen on discussing is legislation, which brings us to the Nebraska unicameral. I know Brett's going to give us a brief update. We're almost done. Today was day 57 of a 60-day session. The last day or two tends to be issuance of proclamations, legislative resolutions, things of that nature. So if a bill hasn't made it across the finish line yet, they're quickly running out of time. There's still a couple of big issues we expect to hear from, but we're down to 3 days left in the unicameral. Also wanted to remind the board and community, we've got the final community closet event of the year. That is April 20th at La Vista Middle School. Want to single out Dr. Becky Myers for her leadership in putting these events together. I think I gave you the statistics at the last board meeting, the numbers of families, the number of articles of clothing that have been given out by the community closet. The impact our families are having on other families is staggering, because it's not the school district that's providing these items, ladies and gentlemen. It is volunteers, it is parents, it is families, it is kids that are coming in and dropping off garbage bags full of hygiene items and gently used clothes. Rare is the day that we don't see people coming into our central office in our schools delivering items that are making a difference for families that need that help. And I couldn't be prouder of that. A couple other dates that have been mentioned that are not on the board agenda. May 12th, we've got commencement, ladies and gentlemen. Monarch goes first this year. They are at 1 p.m. South goes at 5 p.m. It seems far too early, Mr. Madler, to be talking about commencement, but here we are. And finally, we've got a primary coming up, which I anticipate will have all kinds of local implications, because we have 10 candidates for our school board, as well as we got a national election. We got a presidential election in November. So I anticipate Voter turnout will be high. I hope it is. Traditionally, we've had anywhere from 17 to 20%. Get out and vote, ladies and gentlemen. It is one of the things that makes this a great country. We need to exercise that right that has been given to us. So get out the vote on May 14th. And with that, Mr. Madler, I conclude my superintendent comments.
Thank you, Dr. Rickley. Moving on to item D, board reports.
Well, Dr. Rickley already mentioned the school boards, but I wrote a little bit more than he said. First of all, going to one of these conferences is an opportunity to check ourselves, make sure that our direction and our decisions are kind of aligned with the rest of the country, and the benefits are from learning from others who are experiencing the same issues that we are, and the methods that they might use to work together to find solutions. So some of my main takeaways, one of the sessions I attended was on combating hate and racism. And I learned that larger, more diverse communities, even bigger than ours, of course, because there are many in the country, are dealing with harsher incidences of hate and racism. And schools are just microcosms of the community. And the politicization against diversity, equity, inclusion is creeping into our community here as well. But we here in Papillion are better than this, and I'm proud that our mission is to build a climate and culture that welcomes and supports all populations. Another session that I was very intrigued with was trauma and informed care, and this is relevant to our strategic goal to address mental health. We have a great resource with Deb Anderson, who is working to bring knowledge and skills to our staff to recognize and address trauma. In this session I attended, one statement that spoke to me was, "My child is not giving me a hard time, they are having a hard time." And sometimes we assume a child is acting out against us when they are really asking for help. And this is an area that I am proud that our district is actively working to address. Another session, and I'm almost done with the sessions, was supporting students who identify as transgender. This was the last session that I attended, and it dealt mostly with the legal ramifications of updated Title IX regulations, which are expected to be released in less than 2 weeks, assuming they stick with their schedule anyway. This is an area where we as a district may need to review and update our own policies and related to gender identity and such, depending on the new regulations. It's important to remember public schools are responsible for the safety of all students with mandatory reporting requirements when there is reasonable cause to believe that a child has been subjected to abuse or neglect. But my favorite thing was the Saturday keynote. People may have seen the photo or the Norman Rockwell painting of a young black girl being escorted by the FBI agents as she started her first day at an all-white school. Ruby Bridges was that woman, and she was the first black student to be integrated in an all-white school in 1960. Her kind demeanor and meaningful comments were inspiring. A few of her comments that I was drawn to was a quote she said from Martin Luther King, "I have a dream" speech. "I have a dream that all little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character." She observed that the character of her teacher on that first day in that all-white school, that while the teacher looked like the people outside, she did not treat Ruby in the same way the people outside treated her. She was welcomed, cared for, and included, she said. "You know, there's a time when black folks were hung for even having a book or admitting that they knew how to read. And now there are people who want to ban books or limit access." And what she said is true. It's a sad observation of our political disgrace, and she is an author, a civil rights activist, an inspiration to our better angels, and I'm glad to have had the opportunity to witness her. Thank you.
Yeah, I had the privilege of attending the conference. It's been many years since I've been able to with either COVID or sports schedules, so I'm glad I could join Dr. Rickley, Mr. Madler, and Ms. Witt down in New Orleans for the conference. I focused a lot of my breakout sessions on things that obviously impacted the district, but also were going to be impactful for my children, things that they're currently facing or could be facing. And I always like to throw in one to see what it's like. You know, we are a fairly large district in the state, but as you get out to other states, especially like Texas, a seemingly small district is 37,000 students. So my first session, it focused really on, the theme was on really your strategic plan and scorecards and how they, create metrics for the superintendent, but also for their district alone. But they spent quite a bit of time, obviously, just talking about the challenges of being such a large district, especially a district in El Paso, Texas, and dealing with the migrant crisis, as well as English language learners and the different challenges and tracks that they've had to create in order to keep a high standard and academic rigor. It's just amazing to see that. I mean, 37,000 students. They're down from 45 buildings to 37. They have 7 high schools, 81% Hispanic population in the area, and so just what a different strategic plan looks like. It's something that involves that many buildings, that many students, that many staff. Was pretty eye-opening, and got some good takeaways on some different metrics and things that they looked at that we can definitely talk about at our district. The second one was standing room only, people filing out the door. As you can imagine, it revolved around social media and the impact that it's having on our students. I was pleasantly surprised by the second speaker. I went, wow, this is an extremely highly educated, professional, event speaker. It turned out to be a college freshman who wrote a book her junior year in high school that was published. It blew me away how eloquent she was, how educated, how just a great speaker. I mean, she blew the attorney out of the water. He had a hard act to follow. And so she, during COVID in 2021, realized she was just depressed and having challenges, and finally realized that it was because this was constantly in her hand, and she wrote her book really on the dopamine impact, and she published it with a PhD, and just so she decided as a young high school student that I need a break. So she started with a 60-day social media blackout. And what really stood out to me, because I see it constantly with my children, was she had started it on day 4. She was out to dinner with her family. She had her phone out. It was on the table. She kept tapping it. And finally her father said, "Hey, what are you doing?" She said, "What? I'm not doing anything." He said, "You've tapped your phone like 45 times in the 10 minutes we've been sitting here." And that was her eye-opening. She didn't even know she was tapping to see if she got comments or likes or whatever. So it was pretty impressive. I'm looking forward to going out and purchasing that book and seeing, because it is a societal problem right now. But what she concluded was social media, and we've seen in the news and everything about how, what companies are doing. I went to another session where how many lawsuits are out there against Meta and Google and all those places. But her message was really, it does have some benefits. It does keep folks connected that maybe wouldn't be connected otherwise. It does have, certain positives to it, but, finding that happy medium is what she was really concluded, in her book was, I can, if I'm responsible, I can use it for its intended purposes without it becoming an addiction and then having the other problems that might come with it. So pretty fascinating session. The other 2 sessions focused on mental health. One was focused primarily on student mental health and different supports and services that could be provided, and different national resources and things that are occurring throughout the country. And the final one was on our employees, creating a mental wellness program and what those look like. So there's just some good takeaways. As this being the second conference, the thing I always like, and Ms. Witt mentioned, is, it's a good reality check for us to go and make sure that when we say, oh, we are state of the art, we are using the best practices and the best tools and resources, to go get validation that we really are. You hear where some districts are struggling, where they're in disarray, they have conflict, they've got staffing shortages well beyond what we're seeing here. It's pretty, at least reaffirming that what our staff, our leadership team, all of our principals and administration are executing our strategic plan to the manner in which we hold it to its high standard. So that's always one of the best takeaways to come back with. Outside of that, I wish the DECA students would have stayed. So I may be the only one in the state, that's not confirmed, that in my category, my senior year, I won both third place and first place. I was awarded third place at that state conference. I graduated. I got a call from Mr. Logan about a week after graduation, said, "Hey, come up and see me." I said, "Okay." Went to his office. He hands me a plaque. He said, "The state apologizes. They read the results in reverse order. You actually won the state championship." And because of that, I was like, "Oh, I only finished third in the state. I'm not going to go to nationals." So I did not go to nationals because of that. But I have both plaques in my storage drawer. So good times.
Well, I didn't go to the national conference, but I did a few things. I've been on the foundation, been meeting quite a bit. The one that we met was the teacher grant subcommittee, and had a good time with that, looking at all the grants. Teachers are amazing, all the grants that they put out. So can't reveal anything yet, but April 25th, April 26th, we'll be heading around to all the schools. I know you were there also, so I give you props as well, because we use a lot of your information as well. But really excited to, hopefully I can join them on the 25th, and we can go around, and looking forward to presenting some grants to some, like I said, some just fantastic things that are going on. The people, the ideas they have are amazing. So that was one, and then the other one I'm on the gala subcommittee for foundation. So August 24th at 6 p.m. at the Beardmore Event Center. That is when it is, and I'm looking at you all, not necessarily, but kind of to everybody. We're looking for donations. If you know people in the community, any kind of community donations, so that we can have our silent auction there, raise some money. All the money that is raised goes directly back to the teachers to buy supplies for the kids, or the supplies themselves. They'll buy the school supplies and everything for kids. So it's a really, really good cause. So I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think you can already go and start RSVPing for that and getting a table or getting your tickets. I don't have off the top of my head how much the tickets are, but it was a great time. Last year we had a really good time. I know a lot of us, I think 5 of us were there. Obviously you were not there, but the 5 of us were. I think we had a really good time, so I'm looking forward to going back this year. So just wanted to bring that up. Yeah.
And Mr. Bailey, do you remember what was the requested amount for the teacher grants? You had a rough ballpark this time around, a number of grants?
The number of grants, I think there were 52 grants.
That's a lot.
And I'm trying to remember the amount, wasn't it like 150,000 or something like that? I think that's what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they budget, what, 120 still?
120,
$120K a year? A great opportunity for the staff and the teachers to get their proposals in. And I mean, we go through them. You guys went through them this time around and debate them, and hopefully surprise some with some good news in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. We will definitely do it. It was like, it's a lot of fun to do, especially when it's somebody else's money, the foundation money that I can pass out. So.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. I also went to the conference down in New Orleans. It was a great time, as the other speakers have already said. It was also great to spend time with the other board members nationally and locally. We spent a good amount of time with some of the Millard board members and Bellevue board members, mainly because we were in the airport at the same time and stuck in airports for hours with them. It was a joy speaking with them and understanding what's going on in their school districts and what we've been doing as well before the actual sessions. So attended a handful of sessions around issues like navigating sensitive issues and political landmines. We know we've dealt with those, and it seems like every so often there's a new one that pops up. So just how best to handle those situations. Some meetings on like running effective meetings, more parliamentary procedures. We want to make sure that what we're doing is correct and staying up to date with best practices, but understanding that every state has different open meeting laws that we have to adhere to. Probably the biggest one that I went to, or the one that gave me the most self-reflection, was on board self-evaluation. I think we've talked about it, but I don't really remember the conversation about it recently, but doing like a board assessment, right? We assess the superintendent, we assess the staff, we assess the students get assessed. So just thinking about, it could be beneficial for the board members to do like a board self-assessment and review it to usually, a summer retreat. So don't know what that would look like specifically, but just something that got me thinking that it could be good, just so that we understand, we can have our inputs. So if there's areas that we want to get better on or improve, or the meetings that we have or what we go over, we get that out there and discuss. So we want to make sure that we are as great of a board as we can be, and no way of doing that unless you have the conversations to understand where everyone's at. So that was probably the biggest takeaway for me. And then also, it was an honor to listen to Ruby Bridges speak about her life story. And I think it just shows, as a 6-year-old going through that, I think she said that for an entire year she had to be walked to school by 4 federal agents because, just for her own safety. And one, how resilient children are to be able to go through that is just and didn't break her. Is amazing, and it also shows you the power of education and the value that her family placed on education to have her go through that. They knew it would be worth it, and and she's a huge education advocate right now, going in and schools and telling her story. So it was an honor to listen to her. And I think that's it for the conference. Any other board reports? Nope. All right. Moving on to item E, committee reports, buildings, grounds, and finance.
We had to reschedule our meeting from last Friday to this Friday. We've got, other than legislative update, nothing really on tonight's agenda. There will be probably plenty on our meeting here in a couple weeks after we meet on Friday at 8 a.m.
Okay. Next up, human resources and student services.
The HR Student Services Subcommittee met on April 3rd. All subcommittee members were present. We were updated on the school nurse position openings, open enrollment updates. They told us about the number of option enrollment applications and the number of spaces at our schools. There's some negotiations that will be held for the pairs and the secretaries later this spring, with the goal to be settled by May or early June. Dr. Settle shared the results of a staff survey with the group, and that salaries were the top priority for the individuals who submitted survey responses. We talked about the para to teacher programs. Peru State, which has been doing that, will need to suspend the program due to staffing issues. We're hoping they will regenerate that program, but the good news is that we are currently recruiting for the new UNO para to teacher pathway that will help para educators move into elementary or special ed teaching education programs. Administrator salaries, super contract were reviewed, and we are again hoping to have that brought to the board by early June. Proposals for the police department have been reviewed for changes in the structure of the school resource officers. Further discussion and clarity is needed regarding the impact and benefit to the district. And our next subcommittee meeting is May 6th.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Witt. Curriculum and Americanism.
We have not met.
Okay, that wraps up section 2. Moving on to section 3, action items. Item A, action by consent.
I'll make a motion to approve the action by consent as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Fisher and a second by Mr. Bailey. Any discussion? No? Roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Lotus?
Yes.
Mr. Madler?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Witt?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, item B, Policy 3000, Business Services. Mr. Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Madler. Yes, we reviewed this at the last meeting. There were 2 wordsmiths in there. We say Section 3 within the document, and it doesn't match the rest of the document, so we changed that to Part 3, so it matches with the rest of the policy. Otherwise, the rest of Policy 3000 has been reviewed.
I'll make a motion to approve the Policy 3000 series, Business Services Review, and propose changes to Policy 3307.
We have a motion by Mr. Lotus and a second by Ms. Fisher. Any discussions? No? Roll call, please.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Lotus?
Yes.
Mr. Madler?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, moving on to item C, Energy Savings Company, the ESCO projects. Mr. Richards.
Yes, another one that was reviewed at the last meeting. The proposal is still intact as it was presented at the last meeting, except it still has Liberty Elementary on there, which is still my fault for not getting that cleaned up from facility advocates. But we'll make sure that gets cleaned up in the contract once we get to that point where we're comfortable in signing that. Any questions or comments?
No, I just appreciate you and your team getting out ahead of some of these projects. I mean, we know lead times on some of these HVAC and boilers and other HVAC, needs can be, 10 to 14 to 20 weeks out, depending on what we're looking for. So, as we said in our last building and ground meeting, we're just grateful that you guys are always forward thinking, and some of these we've gotten well past their usage date, so we've got a great return on our investments in some of these. And even though you look at Liberty Middle needing something, these things happen, and you can only put so much maintenance into them to where now the maintenance is outpacing the cost. So at some point you gotta just get a new one and hope that it does better than the old one. So thank you so much for putting this together and getting us ahead of the curve and getting these things where they can be replaced as either part of bond work or done over the summer where they're ready to go for our students and staff. With that, I'll make a motion to, 1, approve the guaranteed maximum price for each of the 5 infrastructure projects for La Vista West, Golden Hills, Papillion La Vista South High School, Papillion La Vista High School, and Liberty Middle School as presented, and 2, to delegate authority to and approve the President of the Board of Education, Superintendent of Schools, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, or a designee for the school district to sign, execute, and deliver such construction contract, sign and approve any change orders, retain necessary professionals for assistance, pay the contract price, change order increases, and expenses related to the construction project and site preparation work, and take all other necessary action to complete any requirements or obligations under the construction project and contract.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Lotus and a second by Ms. Witt. Any discussion? No? Roll call.
Mr. Lotus?
Yes.
Mr. Madler?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Moving on to section 4, discussion information items. Item A, student technology purchase for 2024. We going with Lucas is coming up. Welcome, Lucas.
Good evening. In front of you is a discussion item in anticipation of a purchase that we plan to bring back to the board at our next meeting on April 22nd. We've released a request for proposals, which is part of our annual process now. This is not the first time we've been here talking about this, but it's for our student technology fleet in our 1-to-1 grades 7 through 12. We are running a very similar process to what we did last year. We've kind of got a really good, refined, straightforward process for both us to follow internally, and our vendors are very used to it now and I think appreciative of the process we run. It opened last Wednesday. We had a pre-bid meeting this morning to go through the RFP and answer any questions that vendors might have. And then we will accept bids till next Wednesday, I believe April 17th. At 9 o'clock, we'll open them publicly. And then we will evaluate those and review them and bring back a recommendation to the board. This year, as many of you remember, we purchased grades 7 through 12 all at once at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. And so one of the things that we are working on continually, and I'll remind the board of, is now diversifying so we can so we have a cycle, we have a plan for that. So this year actually will be one of our smaller purchase years. It will be one grade level, and we'll cycle some other grade levels in a different manner. And then we'll come back next year, will likely be 2 grade levels again. Last year we did 2 grade levels, and this plan, long range, will get us in a more sustainable format. As Dr. Rickley mentioned earlier, did a wonderful job covering the process that we're also going through to refresh our technology plan. We have a 5-year technology plan that's historically happened in the district for the last at least 20 years, as far as I'm aware. And there certainly could be some changes in that plan that we would keep the board apprised of as well. And if there are any changes that would be laid out over the next 5 years, we'll incorporate those into any future purchases as well. With that, unless there's anything I missed, Ms. Siri, we'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we'll plan to see you back in a couple weeks.
I've got a couple of questions, Lucas. Are we still happy, I assume, with the Chromebooks?
You know, we are gathering input on that right now.
Okay.
So I think, as we've talked before, anything that was manufactured in large quantities at the very beginning of the pandemic, there's certainly some challenges with. We certainly saw that with that large group that we purchased early on. Subsequent groups of devices, we've seen better results with. And as always, part availability, part pricing is something that I get a lot of feedback on. We don't upcharge for any parts that we use for anybody who doesn't participate in the protection plan, and parts can vary. And so that's certainly something we'll always look at as we evaluate these and try to get the best, most efficient units and parts for our students and their families. But in terms of what the devices can do to meet our curricular needs, I think in general we're getting good feedback on that. There's certainly specialty areas where the needs are different, but we've got a few more groups to work through with our technology plan but at this point there's no intention to change from Chromebooks at these grade levels anyways.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's always the balance of the quality of the equipment versus the cost of the equipment.
Exactly.
And,
And it's probably good to note that last year we actually purchased a different version of the Chromebook.
It was different manufacturer,
already,
different model.
So we're already comparing models.
Yep. Part of our process is we require every vendor who wants to participate to send us an actual unit. We literally tear it apart, look at it. We put it in a few students' hands, try to get some feedback on them before we make those purchases. So we'll be doing that right now. They're showing up at our door.
I do think it might be good to note that when Dr. Rickley talked about his student advisory, one of the questions that I asked them was, when they have their school device and they're at home, how many of them have a personal device, which I believe all of them did but 2. And then I asked, so are you working on your personal device or your district-issued Chromebook? And they all said Chromebook. So.
And, the ones that we're replacing, they're 4 years old now?
Let's see.
Or will be when they are replaced?
Yes, they will be they will be when
Do you know roughly out of that original batch 4 years ago what percentage you had to replace?
We've had to repair.
Yeah, repair. Or
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I could get it.
Okay.
If you're interested.
Yeah, if it's like 30%, maybe we need to up the turnaround time.
Yep. I can get that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I also go, do you have another one?
Yeah, no, you.
I was going to say, I noticed you had the Chromebook cases in here as well. Now, have you experimented with those? Because I know you talked about, not upcharging and having to repair and everything. It looks like here, the one that you mentioned, or that something was mentioned about, of course I lost it now that nutcase rugged shell will be considered, that are highly equivalent to that. So I guess that's something to try to help with the damage.
Yep. So we provide a case with every device. We also require vendors to send us samples of those cases. We test them out as best as we can. It's tricky. You got to find a case that matches the machine, right? That you're going to pick. So there's 2 sides to that balance. The cases, I think, they make the machine a little bulkier, but they do provide some protection. They're never perfect, right? They're never enough or never what you need in every situation, but they do certainly help. And so we provide those for every student. The other nice thing about the cases is we allow our students to put stickers or customizations on the case, not on the Chromebook. So it gives a little bit of ownership in a lot of situations, and I think we've gotten good feedback from our students on that. So, yeah.
Any other questions for Lucas? No?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucas. Okay, moving on to item B, ELA adoption. Is that Ms. Siri?
Yeah, so good evening. What I have in front of you for discussion tonight is information on the resource, or I should say resources that have been selected. As you know, we have been working on updating our English language arts curriculum over the past year. It is currently in the toolbox cycle. Our curriculum is written by our teachers and guided by our curriculum directors and our curriculum team. We align that with the Nebraska state standards, and then we also use best practice and research to help us determine what that curriculum looks like. And from that, resources are identified that can be utilized with the curriculum, and they are vetted and piloted. And then there is a decision for purchase, and that is the stage that we are at. This past year, we had over 120 teachers involved in that pilot and curriculum writing process. So what you have in front of you is this is for grades K through 6. 7, 8, we actually purchased out of last year's budget. They were earlier. This is between two companies. This is an 8-year contract, is what it would be. We negotiate 8 years because our cycle is 7. We do pilot, obviously, and we also calculate for growth in there. We do 8 years in case there would be a reason that the standards could possibly be delayed, like a pandemic, say, or if you have a budget situation. English language arts is the most expensive adoption. So it's to create a little bit of wiggle room. The two companies are Amplify and HMH. Amplify is for kindergarten through grades 5, and HMH is for grade 6 in this case, but they are also providing for 7, 8. So 6, 7, and 8 would be in the same resource. So you can see there we are going to be utilizing just north of $400,000 from ESSERS also for this purchase. That was identified early on, and it's actually how we're going to close ESSERS out. So that portion will be applied to these two vendors. We will actually use those funds to pay for kindergarten resources for the contract for 8 years, as well as the pilot materials for the upcoming school year. So the amount that you see in front of you then will actually be divided over 2 years. We divide it out over this current school year and the following year as well, and that is how we've budgeted for it. Thank you, Mr. Richards. So, questions that you have, or?
Ms. Siri, one question, one comment, and maybe the board has some too. Question is, I know that we do an extensive amount of vetting internally, principals, teachers, reading specialists, department chairs. Do we ever give the community or parents the opportunity to look at these materials?
Yeah, great question. So we actually narrowed it down to 2 resources. Those 2 resources were piloted, and we also had a public viewing. We had days that we opened up to our community where they could come in and see both resources that were piloted or going to be piloted. We were just starting the pilot at that time. But yes, so we do that. And then, of course, anytime we have a parent that would like to see the resources that are used with our curriculum, we also set that up for them as well.
Thank you for that. And then comment, and I don't want to preempt a board member here because I suspect that they've probably heard this as well, but as we go out and meet with our staff and our buildings, most notably probably with our liaison lunches where board members and superintendent go out, we just have conversations with teachers and principals and staff about what's going on, the good, the bad, the ugly. This curriculum adoption has come up, if not every liaison lunch, at least 60 to 70% of them. it's at the heart of what we do. We are in the teaching and learning business, but to have teachers and staff so excited about a curriculum. I can't recall a similar time in my 28 years of doing this where it has been so warmly received. And I think that's a great testament not only to your team, Ms. Siri, but the Toolbox members themselves, the teachers, the professionals that are vetting these products and saying, this is what we think is best, but let's go pilot it and see what we get. So it's pretty remarkable. In fact, I can't think of a single negative yet that I've heard other than we want to try it now. We don't want to do the pilot any longer. We want to do it now because our teachers, our parents, and our kids are genuinely excited about. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, and it's probably, thank you for that, and it's probably good to share that the entire implementation is right at $2.2 million for all of ELA. We've spread that out. Obviously, that's between multiple resources, as I've listed here. But it is such an imperative adoption because English language arts is at the heart of what we do. It impacts every other area. Math will be next, but there's been quite a few changes in the area, specifically of reading, and the Toolbox has worked really hard on this, and I really appreciate the fact that the teachers are willing to take it on because it is additional work for them because it's like being a new teacher again, and you're just piloting. It may work, it may not work, and at the end of the day, they still need to reach their target of educating those kids. And then my team, Julie Sauer especially, has worked really hard on this contract to make sure that we get a good shipping cost, to ensure that materials will be delivered by June of every year so that we have time to do what we need to do. And our representatives have been good as well, but it is a big undertaking, and she deserves the credit for that contract.
Is staff development from the company included in this implementation?
So parts of it are, and of course you can purchase additional. We've utilized it a little bit. We just had our first everybody at the elementary last staff development day. The Monarchs hosted, which was very generous. And that the directors led, and they went through the shifts and the why, and it was bigger. It was more than the resource. It was the actual curriculum, but it included pieces of the resource as well. But we're also going to utilize our Toolbox members because they have piloted it. They've had experiences with it. But yes, there are avenues for that if that's what we choose to do. We've been using the company, honestly, with our coaches, our instructional coaches right now, and our principals a little bit, also trying to get a feel for how good it is.
So we talk often about assessment and, how we assess our students and things. Every time we usually adopt something new, we see the challenges that can sometimes present for us with assessment. So what do you anticipate some challenges with our assessment scores, or will we be looking, is this one of those transition times? Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Sure. I think that's a great question, Val. I do think that there will be a transition period. What we're seeing in the pilot, the students are performing really well. I don't want to jinx us, but I will tell you that our transition and through this process and with the new standards is very strategic around reading and reading instruction using Scarborough's rope philosophy. It is more rigorous. Okay. And so, we are going to Dr. Rickley's point, I am also hearing from the teachers, can't we just let us go? This is better, let's just go. But we've tried to be very strategic and plan to make sure we roll it out slow, to make sure our teachers are prepared, and also to make sure they're comfortable, because it is going to take a little bit of heavy lifting to transition. And along with that, we will probably see that in our assessments as well. It's also hard when you take a direct shift in a curriculum, if I'm being very honest. We're rolling out kindergarten next year strategically. The pilot teachers are also going to do a second year because now that we've written the curriculum, we want them to try it with the resource. But there will have to be some scaffolding in those grade levels as we transition.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Siri?
I would like to know what Ms. Siri was going to provide an answer to Dr. Rickley's question. So for you guys wondering what was going on, he said Ms. Siri, and his Siri went off and was recording that question.
Yeah,
So
I was waiting for the response.
yeah, we were waiting. Marcus and I were waiting.
It
for the
happens all the time in the office.
as good as the response.
Yeah.
So
I wish I owned that Siri, but
All right, thank you. Moving on to item C, legislative update. Mr. Richards.
Well, 2 weeks later, we're back. Not a whole lot to update, especially in the big bills of finance. We're still waiting. They did pass 388 and 1331, which is going to be the vehicle that we really need to keep an eye on. I know there was a lot of bills out there. They've kind of been consolidated into two bills, 388, 1331. Those will more than likely be on the floor tomorrow. We won't know till later tonight on the agenda because they only have, like Dr. Rickley said, 3 days left, which makes this session a little bit different than I've seen in the past, to say the least. I've been doing this a long time. I know Dr. Rickley has too. But to see bills come down this late without getting to the select file with the correct amendments and having the votes and all of that is different for sure. So we have no idea what's going to happen down there the next couple days, whether they'll have the 33 votes or will they only need 25 to get it through. We'll have to wait and see. I know the governor has said special session if they don't get those finance bills done to get the property tax relief. We've heard rumors of taking just 1107, which is Nebraska property tax credit, and moving that to the school districts for dollar property tax relief. Because right now, we still have a lot of districts not taking that advantage of that, the populations. Elkhorn's a good example. Senator Linehan was on the floor last week talking about it. Only 62% in Elkhorn. I think it was 52% in OPS. Populations taking advantage of that. So this would get it 100% property tax relief for everybody within the school district if they do move that 1107 money, which is part of the overall bill anyway. The big hangup, I think, continues to be the sales tax increase, the cent, to get the necessary votes to make all this happen at the 40% the governor wants in property tax relief. So there's a lot of horse trading going on down there, a lot of communications in the rotunda and off to the side on the floor, trying to get this something across the finish line here. But in a short session, I've never seen it since I've been around, something this big go through a short session successfully. So a special session may be needed. Just to give you a heads up, one other bill I wanted to bring to your attention that I didn't talk about last week was LB 71. That's Senator Sanders' bill, which is the parent transparency bill. You are all very aware of that. You've heard about it for the last 3 years, really. Last two, it's kind of been shelved, and it finally made it out. This will be a difficult bill to implement, but I think as a district, we should feel pretty comfortable about the things that we're doing within the bill. That we just need to bring and do a little differently to make it more transparent or whatever it may be on our website. And they're going to make us redo our policies a little bit according to some of the things that need to come out, which is all a good thing in the end. We've always tried to be transparent with these things and have parents make decisions for their kids, and I think this bill pushes us a little further to do some of those things. So looking forward to those things. And one of the things we were very excited to see was the amendment that came late from Senator Sanders that doesn't make this effective till July 1st, 2025, which gives us another year to implement, because trying to do as many policy changes that are going to be necessary with this bill are going to take some time to be thoughtful, considerate in our approach to getting those things taken care of within that bill. Any questions, comments? I know everybody's following it down there, so it's been wild.
So by the time the session wraps up, it will wrap up before our next board meeting 2 weeks from yesterday. So what we'll do when it works for the board and for President Madler, Brett and I'll work with Senator Gay, former Senator Gay, to deliver his after-action report where we can kind of go through some selected bills, certainly not all of them, But we'll go through some selected bills and kind of give you the status. This passed, here's how it's going to impact us. This didn't pass, here's what we think might happen moving forward. My guess is if property tax relief is not part of the final legislative package, that will come back either in a special session, as Brett pointed out, or in the next biennium. So more details to come, but we'll stay on top of it.
Yes, and just to share with you, NCSA does their recap of the legislation every year, and it was scheduled for April 15th, and it got moved April 22nd because there's just not a lot to share quite yet because everything hasn't gone through. So it'll be different, but we do have that NCSA wrap up the day of the next board meeting, I believe. So we'll be putting it together fast and furious for you on that Monday night board meeting. Like Dr. Rickley said, we'll have Mr. Gay down and answer any questions you may have on his side too. Thank you.
It's probably a good reminder, only tax day is less than a week away, so anyone in the community, make sure you're filing for that property tax relief or the credit back for what you paid against the general levy. 20 to 25%?
General fund and 30%.
30%
General fund and special building fund, the two combined, and you get 30% back.
Yeah.
So yeah, please take advantage of that.
Yep, be sure to make sure you're doing that.
Yeah, and if you file through Nebraska e-file, it does take you to the Sarpy County external site. You can search your parcel number, it'll bring in, and then it'll calculate the amount and bring in that information straight onto your state return. So they have greatly used technology to make it hopefully easier for folks to take advantage of that credit. So sorry, the CPA and me got nerded out there. So.
Somebody $100.
Yeah. All right, any other questions for Mr. Richards? No? Well, Mr. Richards, thanks for obviously staying on top of all of it. There's a lot of moving pieces and coming down to the wire. So good luck. Okay, item D, review policy 4,000 personnel. Dr. Settles.
Yep. Hello, everybody. It is April, which means the 4,000 policies are up for review. That's the personnel policies. So if you note anything that you want us to take a look at as you're going through those, please don't hesitate to send me a message. Our team is also going through those. The 4,000s are a bit hefty, so we began on those a couple of weeks ago, and we'll continue to go through those until recommendations have come forth for you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Settles. Moving on to Section 5, future board calendar. April 12th, 2024, we have our DARE graduation at Portal at 1:45. April 13th, 2024, we have prom for Papillion Vista South High School at Beardmore Event Center. April 20th, 2024, prom for Papillion Vista High School at Beardmore Event Center. And then April 22nd, 2024, our next Board of Education meeting at 6 p.m. here at Central Office. And seeing no further business in front of the board, I adjourn the meeting at 7:12.